What's up? This is Brandon London, and you're listening to the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. You hear that? The Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. Let's go, Giants.
Happy New Year, Giants fans. Welcome back to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast in association with Andy's Man Club. Remember, it is always okay to talk. Tonight, we are 67% British, 33% Irish, but as always, absolutely 100% Giants. We're back for our first episode of 2024 as we bring you our breakdown of Sunday evening's game against the Los Angeles Rams, which came down to the wire and the boot of Mason Crosby in a game that had it all, including the Giants' first punt return for a touchdown since Dwayne Harris brought one back 80 yards against the Jets in 2015. More on that later, so stay tuned. Lads, how are we doing? Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Good to be back on with you guys. Feels like I haven't been on for ages now. Had to miss a couple of ones over Christmas there. I wasn't too well. But back to talking Giants football now. And, we'll try and dissect some of this game and talk about the season in general a wee bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy New Year to you all and to the listeners and watchers. It's kind of, in a weird way, it's nice and not nice to see the back of last year because there were high moments, but there were also a lot of low moments. It'd be interesting to see if we can start with a high moment maybe in the draft. I think that might be the next time we get a high moment amongst us. And let's hope it's a high moment because, you never know who they're going to pick.
No, you absolutely don't know who they're going to pick. Obviously, there's plenty of permutations left this weekend in terms of our overall draft pick in the draft in April. We're currently obviously at number 5, which we'll talk about in a bit, but there's so many different things that can happen this weekend that we could be anywhere from 2 to 5. So, we'll go through that shortly. But as usual, we want to hear your thoughts on the game at the weekend. So let us know in the comments what you thought of the game as well. And also, as it's the first show of the new year, we want to know your New Year's resolutions if you've got one. So, guys, any resolutions for either of you?
I'm going to go for the usual, say, annual one. I don't try it every year, but I'm going to definitely try and join up with the gym now this year, try and shift a bit of extra timber because I'm starting to get on in my old age. I'd like to maybe get fit, start playing a bit of football again. I miss playing football with lads.
I don't think I've really thought about one, to be honest. I never stick to them, so I don't see the point. Maybe try and sort out this room a little bit more. I want to get this set up, with a nice little backdrop for the pod. So that'd be mine.
So, I'm in the same boat as well. I never stick to them, so I don't really see the point in setting them. But for me, I think just build on 2023 on, this podcast and take it even further, hopefully, in this year. And you never know, we might end up with press passes back in New York going to get at some point this year. So, touch wood, that'd be cool. But just to carry on where we left off last year on here and just enjoy what we do. And bring our viewers and listeners this podcast every single week without fail. That's mine, I think. Don't forget, before we get started, don't forget to head on over to usasports.co.uk, get yourself some New Year's Giants merch. Use the code BIGBLUE to get yourself 10% off your entire order. Now, Sunday obviously was our final game of 2023. Our last game of the season is coming up this weekend. But it like I said at the beginning, it came down to the wire in a game that none of us predicted that was going to be this close. As the saying goes, bad teams find ways to lose games. And probably, in all honesty, the Giants should have come away with a victory on Sunday evening. We were able to keep pace with the playoff contending Rams throughout the whole game. I think the Rams had a 10-point lead going into the third quarter, something like that. I can't quite remember, but I think it was testament to our defense and our offense as well, and special teams. Got to give them a shout out. That we stuck with it, and yeah, it was an overall a fairly decent performance. But in the end, it came down to that 54-yard Mason Crosby field goal, which went wide left. After he'd also missed a PAT, would turn out to be a crucial PAT earlier in the game that condemned us to that 26-25 loss. Our 11th notch in the loss column this season, and our third straight as well. Now, according to Tankcon, like I said earlier, our draft position in 2024 hasn't changed since last week. We still hold the number 5 pick, thanks to our easier strength of schedule. However, we still have a chance to move up in the order. If the Giants lose to the Eagles this weekend, which, in all honesty, is highly likely, if the Cardinals beat the Seahawks, I mean, they're coming off the back of an upset victory against the Eagles themselves. The Commanders beat Dallas, and the Patriots beat the Jets. I mean, there's a lot that needs to happen there. We could potentially move up to the number 2 overall pick, which would delight some people here on this podcast. I mean, do like all of us, to have number 2 overall pick, but those that are on that little tank train, you know, they'd be more than happy with the number 3 pick. Myself, if we pick a 5, doesn't really matter. I don't care.
Monty's right there. One more week. One more week.
One more week. Yeah, one more week. Let's make it a good week. Let's make it a winning week.
Shout out to Monty and his He's a Giant podcast. Absolute cracking job those boys do. So, yeah. Just before we get sort of cut into the good and Kev's little way on the good, I've got a question for you and a question for anyone who's watching. So get involved in the comments. We'll reveal this at the end of the show. Xavier McKinney and Bobby Okereke are 2 players on defense who have played every single snap this season. Ryan Dunleavy put out a tweet earlier that had a question that I thought was quite interesting. Can you guess the player who has had the most snaps on offense this year? Now, pop it in the comments. We're going to put them into a private chat, so we also name them right now. So there's no cheating. I won't name one because I know the answer. But yeah, pop it in the comments. Let us know who you think it is. Most snaps on offense this season so far.
Most offensive snaps. That's a cracking question.
Shout out Ryan Dunleavy, not mine.
Ryan Dunleavy, great one. Right, Kev. There was a lot of good things from this game, believe it or not. But what stood out?
Well, there was, and like you started off with saying about, bad teams find ways to lose games. And yes, we have been a bad team this year, but I do believe we're a bad team who actually has good players and players that actually, I feel that we can go forward with and can take this team forward. And just to mention a couple of them now, I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson, this season has really been a breakout year for Wan'Dale, despite all the uncertainty in the building regarding him. Robinson once again showed an uncanny knack to get open in the passing game. There's 9 targets, 6 receptions, both being the highest amongst the Giants receivers. I mean, his most impressive moment this week, however, was a 24-yard touchdown run early in the second quarter, which saw him barrel his way into the end zone after some great downfield blocking from Andrew Thomas and John Michael Schmidt. And I just think, he's the type of player, if you can get a really good game plan going, you could see the best from him. I think he's so much untapped potential with him. And then moving over to the defensive side, Bobby Okereke, I mean, let's be honest, it's no shock. But yet again, Bobby Okereke is in the good section. He's quickly become what is likely to be our best free agent signing in a very, very long time. And it just backs it up every single week. I mean, as you mentioned about the stat regarding, he hasn't missed a snap all season, like 100% of snaps every game, and we've got 1 game left. I mean, it's just a phenomenal stat. He once again led the Giants with 10 tackles, 2 solo, 1 for loss, while adding 2 QB hits and 1.5 sacks, which is incredible for his first season. It was his first sack of the season as well. Just continues to produce, and what an absolute anchor in the middle of that defense for Wink. And then obviously we've got to give a shout out to Gunnar. I always mispronounce this. Is it Olszewski?
Olszewski, isn't it?
Oh, Chesty, right? Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I just keep shouting Olay, Connor Olay at it at the TV, like. But I mean, yeah, I mean, he's what we've all wanted, like since the beginning of the season. You know, he's come in and he's just been solid. The fair catches, hasn't spilled any. In fact, we've sung his praises a few times in the pod, despite him not really doing anything spectacular. But because he's just come in and done his job to a certain extent, it's been so good. I mean, but then again on Sunday. I mean, I don't know how he sort of ran into a bunch of lads. There's so much pressure there and kind of spun out of it. You know, he might have took a little advice from David Blaine, who was in the building this past week, another escape artist, and Eli Manning. But as soon as he got through the Rams return line, he was absolutely gone. And his 94-yard punt return was the first punt return touchdown the Giants have had since Dwayne Harris's 80-yard return against the Jets in 2015, and the longest since. Dwayne Harris's 100-yard return against the Cowboys in 2015. It's a long time that had not really produced much in the return game. I mean, it was actually really, really good to see. Another player I want to give a bit of a shout out to, is Darren Waller. Now, in all honesty, it's not been the year we had hoped for it. You know, the hype around training camp quickly died off, especially with up and down quarterback play. And then his hamstring injury just seemed to linger for a few weeks before he, was placed in IR in week 8. But now this game was not perfect, but his 5 receptions, 6 targets, 51 yards, including a long of 18. It's nothing to turn your nose up at, especially at this stage of the season and the way things are in general. You know, he was accountable for 3 of the 5 third down conversions, which is, is kind of what he's brought in for, is to be that big target to get those conversions when we need them most. So, Christian Nyland, lads, moving on to our players of the game. Who did you go for, Dan?
I mean, originally it was going to be Gunner. I think we'll give him honourable mention just for that 94-yard punt return for touchdown. Unbelievable play to get out the mess he was in, to bounce out wide right and run it down the sideline. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I mean, I think Kev, you weren't watching live, but I think Craig, you were. I was jumping up and down at that play. It's probably one of the most excited I've been in a long time. Watching a Giants game, watching a punt return for a touchdown to bring us back within a point. I couldn't believe it. It was a great play.
A lot of the time when I'm watching by myself, because I let Anna have the main TV and watch Red Zone or the Saints, whatever she wants to watch, and because I tend to do the tweet along, I kind of have a little set up on my desk, and so because she's watching and she's in the same room, I tend to try and keep the emotions in, which obviously helped for our press box experience because I was able to keep myself under control. But that's one of the first times where I've kind of really got animated and started shouting at my screen. Just because, it was exciting, and I don't think any of us expected him to spin out of that. He just kind of, you just thought he'd hit the wall and go down. It was like, oh, okay, there we go. It's at the 20, and all of a sudden he just tore off, and you're like, well, where the hell has he just come from?
Where did that come from exactly? Just reminded me of a young Eli Manning in Super Bowl 42, and also a young Victor Cruz against the Jets in 2012 as well, taking it to the house for 99 yards. But yeah, just great play. But he was going to be my original pick, but then I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for Tyrod Taylor. There is an ish to this. I'll add that caveat in there. Now his overall performance, that overall equates this to being an ish, but I thought that this was his most impressive game and his most impressive performance as a Giant, in terms of his command, in terms of his ability to throw the ball deep. He wasn't scared to throw the ball deep. Yes, there was that 2-point conversion. More on that later. There were some unnecessary sacks because he held on to the ball for too long, and a few underthrows as well. But in my opinion, he still had a great game. 27 of 41, 319 yards. That phenomenal 80-yard touchdown pass to Darius Slayton. Threw it absolutely on the dot. Hit him in stride, which is what we haven't seen this season, is hitting that receiver in stride. And it's the second week in a row he's done it. He had the long one against Philly last week, and he had another long one this week as well. To those that, who don't think he belongs here, just remember that 319 yards is the most by a Giants quarterback this season. It's not difficult, I know. We've not seen a particularly great quarterback play this season. Tommy DeVito stepped in and did what he needed to do. He got us 3 wins. He got 3 wins in a row. But it's not really difficult for that to be our best quarterback performance of the season, because our offense has been pretty inept at times. And he did lead the Giants down the field on that final offensive drive before Crosby's missed field goal. I said he wasn't scared to throw the ball deep, hitting Darius Slayton in stride for that beautiful touchdown. And also hit Jalen Hyatt as well on a deep pass that was unfortunately called back for a hold on Dan Bellinger at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And obviously that led to a turnover on downs on 4th and short, with Hyatt hitting the shallow cross and losing yards on it. Well done. But for the second week in a row, we scored 25 points in a game, something we haven't really seen much of this season. We've only scored more than 25 on 2 occasions. And Tyrod's had a big play to part in that the last 2 weeks. So for me, Tyrod, he gets my player of the game vote.
Fantastic.
There we go.
And Craig, who are you going for?
I kind of spoiled it myself there by bringing it up on the screen, but it's Mr. Slayton.
Itchy fingers. Too quick on the click.
Itchy trigger finger. You just quickly, you were saying about Tyrod, 319 yards, best Giants performance by a quarterback. Pretty sure he was 3rd in passing yards in the entirety of the NFL this week as well. Saw that stat earlier. So,
there you go. Winner.
Yeah, I don't think there were too many. I can't remember who the 2 were above him, but that's probably the first time we've seen a Giants quarterback in the top 5 this season after a game. So, right. So Slayton, for the last few weeks, Shane, who obviously isn't with us this evening, has kind of alluded to the unfair criticism that Slayton has taken from Giants fans for the last sort of few seasons, really. And kind of since we started putting the spotlight on Slayton, he's been absolutely lights out. Sunday's game, he had 4 catches on 6 targets, 106 yards, and the 80-yard touchdown that Dan was talking about from Tyrod. But there's a few more sort of wrinkles to this that I just kind of wanted to go through. It's Slayton's first time this season recording a 100-plus game, and his 106 yards, unsurprisingly, led the Giants in receiving yards for the game. His 80-yard touchdown is the offense's longest play of the year, including their, obviously, longest touchdown of the year. And I kind of saw a tweet from Justin Panic from Talking Giants that kind of says all you really need to know about Slayton and how his season's gone, and actually how underrated he actually is when you think about it. Because a lot of people say he's not a true wide receiver 1, and they're right. He's not. He's not a prototypical wide receiver 1. He will be a very, very good 2 when we can get our 1 in. But Darius Slayton is the only wide receiver in the NFL during the last 2 years to average at least 15 yards per reception, have 40 receptions at least, and have a catch percentage of at least 60%. For a man who apparently is defined by his drops, which he has 2 of this season, by the way, that is a phenomenal stat.
I mean, 2's better than 7 he had last year.
Exactly. But the 7 he had last year and the 2 this year still equate to a catch percentage of at least 60%. So he might have had a lot of drops last year, but he still, I think, well, he did. He led the Giants in receiving yards last year. He's probably going to do it again this year. I can't see Darren Waller catching him. So that means 4 out of the 5 seasons he's going to have led the Giants in receiving yards, all over 700 yards as well. I think it's about time that Mr. Slayton gets a bit more respect from not just our fans, but also potentially fans of other teams.
No more Slayton slander.
Nope.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think if we can get ourselves a true number 1 wide receiver going forward, he's such a good complement to have that speed and then have sort of the other guys as well with Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson. If you add another one receiver to that sort of core, that's a scary core, you know. If you get some good quarterback play with those type of weapons, I think that could outmatch any sort of the DBs in this league.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Right, Des. So we'll get back on to myself. As a Slayton fan, he has been let down by those around him. You're absolutely right. But we will get on to that in the offseason, what we will need to do to help him become a better player. So for my player of the game, I just want to give a little shout out just to Isaiah Simmons. I mean, despite being used for less than 50% of the snaps of the weekend, he was still able to put a stamp on the game. You know, he was able to record his first sack of the season, as well as 3 tackles and 1 solo. And 2 of those 3 tackles constituted in a stop for the defense. Now, I just think, you know, we gave up a 7th round pick for him, and it wasn't the first round player that we were getting. But I think there's just something about him that if Wink stays and he has a full off season learning Wink's defense and practicing instead of coming in halfway through the season or to begin the season like he did, I just think he could add something to this defense long term and actually be a bit of a playmaker. And I just thought, you know, this was a good game for him. And I just want to sort of give him some props. So, but going on to Shane's player of the game, I'll hand it over to you, Craig. Who does Shane go for?
So Shane decided to go for the person that I think we could all say is probably the unanimous standout on this team, and that was Dane Belton. You know, Kev, you spoke earlier about Wan'Dale Robinson having a breakout season. Let's talk about a breakout game for somebody. I mean, Belton was forced into a more prominent role this week because of Pinnock's injury in the first quarter, and he's probably not going to get. He wasn't going to get as many snaps as he ended up getting if Pinnock stays on the field, let's be honest. But Belton arguably had his best pro game, full stop. 2 tackles, 1 solo, 2 passes defended, 2 interceptions, fumble recovery. Dable describes Belton as being somebody who just knows where the ball is. He's a ball hawk, and he proves it. I sent out a tweet on Sunday night in response to one of the Giants tweets, just saying, you know, because we're followed by Danny Belton, which is Dane Belton's dad, and I just put a tweet out saying, Danny, what did you feed him? Because he was just having one of those kind of games where you just had to kind of go, the hell's going on here, Danny? But it's not just
where has this come from?
Yeah. But you look at the stat that was brought up during the game as well. Belton became the first Giants defender to record 3 takeaways in a game since Stevie Brown had 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery against the Cowboys in 2012.
Stevie Brown.
Well, the graphic on the TV said Stevie Brown, first player since Stevie Brown. So I thought, right, I'm going to go back and have a look. And you know, Stevie Brown was with the Giants in 2012. But he had another game sort of later on in the season where he actually had 2 interceptions and a forced fumble, but he didn't recover the fumble. So there was a few sort of little games around there where we had a defense that was stout enough just to kind of, you know, knock the ball free and really make big plays. And I think Belton has kind of proven that. I think he has something like 4 interceptions and 3 fumble recoveries in his 2 years with the Giants, which just seems crazy considering he hasn't really played as much as you kind of think he has looking at those stats. So, I mean, Shane couldn't really have hit this on the head even anymore. Belton was outstanding.
Yeah, it was very good, especially like you said, after really being forced to come into the game in place of Pinnock as well. If it wasn't for the fact that Pinnock got injured, he probably wouldn't have got, like you said, got the snaps that he did. Obviously, it's unfortunate that Pinnock gets injured, but when someone goes down and gets injured, next man up, you know, and he had an outstanding game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair play to him. I mean, we thought he was good depth anyway last season, and he sort of showed flashes of like, okay, we could have something here. Let's progress and progress. And he's kind of being like, you couldn't take Pinnock off the field with X because they've been playing so well as a tandem. Mm-hmm. But to have someone like Belton come in and step in and not miss a beat, I think, and play so much better as well, I think is a massive thing for us. And like, I just want to see more of them next season. And that's what I was on about these last couple of games. Play these young guys. And that's what, play these young guys, get them snaps, get them experiences, because this will only do him better. Now, if he can take this into the off season, I'd love to see what he can produce next season.
Yeah, man. Excited. He's got an exciting future ahead of him, and we're looking forward to see what he can do next year for sure. So even though it was a close game, what wasn't so great for the Giants, Craig?
Well, there were a few topics I could have settled on here. At one point, I started looking into.
Yourselves in.
Missed tackles again. I started looking at our red zone efficiency. We only made 2 trips to the red zone and didn't convert on either of them. And another thing that I looked at was the kind of game management on the 4th quarter final drive. It just seemed like there was a few things in there that didn't make sense. Obviously, Kafka called a good game for the majority, but there were still some head-scratching decisions by him. The 4th down that went behind the sticks to Hyatt's one of them. Obviously, we had another 4th down.
The second down run as well.
Second down run on the final drive, absolutely.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't want to go back to the ground game on the 3rd down on that one. There was also I suppose it's less of a Kafka issue, but if you think about it, there was also the 4th down where JMS and Tyrod fumbled the snap between the two of them. That doesn't help. But what I decided to go for was penalties, and in particular 4th quarter penalties. The Giants haven't exactly lit the world on fire at all this season on either side of the ball. So the last thing that we really can afford to do is give up yardage. We have to take advantage of any yards we can get. But the problem is we have a tendency to shoot ourselves in the foot, especially on offense. The Giants gave up a total of 7 penalties on Sunday. 5 on offense, 1 on defense, 1 on special teams. But 5 of those were in the 4th quarter, and all 5 ended up having some kind of an impact on the game. So I'm just going to go through them, all 5 of them. So firstly, we had a Bredesen holding penalty that backed the Giants up from the Rams 10 to the 20. The Giants would then have to settle for a field goal 3 plays later to make it 20 to 19. On the next possession, which was the Rams' offensive possession, Cordell Flott's defensive holding gave the Rams a free 5 yards and a 1st down, which meant the playbook opened up a little bit for them, and they were able to get Kyron Williams into space. He scored his 3rd touchdown of the night to give the Rams a 26 to 19 lead. After that, Giants got the ball back and probably had what I would say is maybe the costliest mistake out of all of them. 47-yard pass from Tyrod to Hyatt. Great pass, great concentration by Hyatt. I took a little bit of stick on X earlier on in the day for calling Hyatt out on a drop pass in the 1st quarter, which I stand by. I still think it was a drop pass. The argument against it was that Tyrod should have made a better play, but I actually think the pass is phenomenal from Tyrod, and that Hyatt just needs to catch that. He just needs to focus. But he did actually haul in this 47-yarder, but it was Bellinger's 2nd holding penalty of the day that kind of wiped that one off the board, and that drive would then end up with a turnover on downs. Our next offensive drive would stall was JMS, you could admittedly say he struggled against Donald and Kobe Turner in that game. He was called for yet another holding penalty that negated a 1st down. 3 plays later, Giants punt. So, we're costing ourselves not just points, but drives, time. There's so much. But the last one, it didn't seem like a lot when it happened, and we all kind of just went, yeah, okay. But then when you look back at the impact that it ends up having on the final drive, it's a lot larger than you think. So Holmes was called for holding on a punt return right on that final drive. Big play, Darnay. And those 10 yards that were pulled back, They don't seem like a lot when you're starting where you're starting, but then you go to, okay, we drove down the field and Crosby has to hit the 54-yarder. Well, if it's not 10 yards, it's not 54, is it? It's 44. Does he make it? I don't know. That thing looked more left than I've ever seen anything go left. It was a shot.
I mean, the wind was. Do you see the wind take it? It was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was dead center, and then it's off it goes. See you later.
Yeah, but I think they're the ones you look back on. And as I was kind of going through this and looking at it, I was thinking to myself, like, man, we shoot ourselves in the foot. We must really shoot. Like we must be one of the worst teams at it. And amazingly, we're 23rd in most penalties given away on offense this year. That doesn't seem right, does it? So my kind of question to you, it's more of a statement, but you can take it as a question, Kev. Is it just me, or do they feel more costly because of the lack of production the Giants have?
Maybe, yes. It's one of those ones where it's like it's so difficult to quantify in the sense that it's been like it's a really bad year. I mean, like you talk about like a lot of offensive penalties on the O-line, like especially. But then a lot of O-line play this year has been horrendous. I mean, I think it has real like coaching. It always goes back to me. Right? It always goes back to coaching. I think all these players can't be bad. These are NFL caliber players, and penalty for the most part are mental errors. They're not physical errors as such. So I just think like new coaching in certain aspects of the team is an absolute must. Offensive line coach, special teams coaching, because that's one thing that you can try and say like the holding and stuff like that. It's technique, and technique comes from your coaching.
There you go, Kev. Is that because our O-line is so bad they're not even quick enough to hold?
What is it, 83 sacks and counting, right?
I mean, it is just so bad. I mean, I just don't understand how the players we have on this team cannot have a clean pocket. We've seen what all of the QBs we've played with the last 2 years. We've seen what they can do when they're given a bit of time in the pocket. When they're just given average time in the pocket, they're able to make play. They're not outstanding. They're not world beaters, but they're able to make the offense function. And when you're giving up so much pressure, it's so hard. I mean, it's difficult when you have someone like Daniel Jones who obviously plays off confidence, and when he feels like he's going to get battered every single play, he makes bad decisions. He hasn't got the gunslinger and the escapability and the swagger of a player that can just go out and do it when he's getting pressured. He hasn't got that. He just can't go out and sling it around and make plays. He's not really a playmaker. He can make plays in structure. And then you have someone like Tyrod who tries to be a bit of a gunslinger and make plays out of nothing and just isn't good enough and then coughs the ball up. And you have Tommy DeVito who comes in and he's a rookie and he's not the best college player. He never was. He wanted to stay an extra year in college. And he comes in and he hasn't got the experience. Now you talk about these guys. If they don't have absolute structure and time in the pocket, they are not going to be good. We know that. Now, does this mean getting big topic now? Do we have to, in the draft, look for someone who can make plays out of structure? And drafting someone early in the draft who, okay, O-line is below average, so make something happen. Now, if some people in the camp of, no, fix the O-line, and Daniel Jones is a good enough quarterback in structure to win games. Now, I'm very much on the fence at the moment, and we will talk about this a lot in the off-season, but where we should go. But I think, I think that anyone back there, apart from a true playmaker, is going to get absolutely killed. Sorry for the rant.
No, not at all.
It's a justified rant. It doesn't necessarily surprise me too much that we're 23rd in terms of penalties given up on offense, because even though we've been fairly clean in most of the games in terms of penalties called, every penalty called on offense is costly when your offense isn't producing. And when your offense isn't producing game after game, week after week, month after month, offensive holding call pushing you back 10 yards is the difference between potentially putting points on the board and punting it away. And how many times this season have we had a penalty called on a drive on the offensive line for a hold, for an illegal block in the back, for even a false start? Too many to mention. Where that drive then stalls and we end up going 3 and out, or we end up punting the ball away, or whatever, or we end up having to settle for a field goal when it could have potentially turned into more than that. I mean, yeah, there were obviously 5 costly penalties in the fourth quarter, like you mentioned, Craig, and it's so difficult. And when a lot of them are on that offensive line, that clearly, I mean, Bobby Johnson was asked himself this week, do you see? Was it this week just gone? Have you heard anything about your position here? And he's like, no, why would I? I'm just looking forward to the game this week. So there is obviously a lot of talk going around that he's not going to be here come potentially Monday. And I've got to side with everyone in terms of it comes down to coaching. Like you said, it comes down to technique. It comes down to those fundamental, basic techniques and basic skills that they're clearly not being coached. And they are, like I said, they're fire Bobby. Agree with you there, Jamie. They're not being coached properly, and they're not being coached well because they're making far too many mistakes. I think if you see a better coach, or not necessarily better coach, because Bobby Johnson was is in there last year, and he's the offensive line were okay. So the fact that we've kind of gone backwards is I don't know, it's a tough one. But you've got to remember this offensive line at the start of the season was very, very young. Evan Neal in his second year has had an absolute nightmare, and is running the risk of losing the starting job altogether. Josh Azudu is pretty young as well. Andrew Thomas is young. JMS is a rookie. The only sort of experience we've got there, obviously Pugh's straight off the couch into that left guard position. The rest of the guys around him, Tyree Phillips is young. So that the whole line is very, very young and very, very inexperienced. So maybe some of it comes down to that, but through inexperience, you expect coaching to be there to be able to get them through. And you see a lot of other lines around the league that are young that don't make as many mistakes as we do. So, yeah, I think penalties have been very, very costly for us this season because we haven't produced an offense, and a lot of that does come down to the O-line.
So just a quick question then, just off topic a little bit. Do you say that I completely agree with you about the offensive line as well being so young and inexperienced? So we went out last year to try and get an experienced offensive lineman in Glowinski, and we can all say that kind of hasn't worked. We kind of got him on the tail end of his career, on the downward trajectory. Do you think we should be looking to the draft now to reinforce the O-line, or would you like to see a shrewd, middle of the road, middle of the market offensive lineman come in through free agency?
I mean, we've addressed the offensive line in the draft how many years in a row now? And has it worked? I mean, JMS, is a rookie, and he's made some mistakes this season, but overall, I think he's not had a horrendous season in terms of a rookie center, at least. But I think we need to get someone in that's got a bit more experience.
Are you trying to summon Shane from the ether with O-line talk?
I just want Shane to be.
Come on, Shane.
Come on, Shane. I want Shane to be wherever he is right now, just to stop and go. What's that? I just have a feeling. I had a feeling. I don't know what that was. Because he is.
They're talking O-line. They're talking O-line.
Yeah. Because he is the O-line guru.
I mean, Jamie's right there. We just need a line of Andrew Thomas's, really, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, if we could clone the man and pop him at left tackle, God Almighty, would we be good? No, I agree that you always go back to the O-line, don't you? But it almost feels like a cliche to kind of blame them now because it's just been that bad. But we're not stopping until Bobby's gone. I'm sorry, until he's gone, nothing's going to change. It really does feel that way. And just a shout out for Tyree Phillips as well. Obviously, sad to see that his season's now over with a torn quad, which sounds horrible. Torn quad tendon just sounds awful.
Yep.
I actually think that he'd done a really good job, and I don't think he had allowed any pressures on Sunday. So I think even Thomas allowed a sack, but whether that could be attributed against him or against Taylor holding the ball too long, I don't know. But never nice to see anyone get injured in that way. We're kind of hijacking this podcast and kind of going off rails a little bit. But I also had a question just to prompt to you guys. Evan Neal went from a sprained ankle to a broken ankle. Is something going on with our injury management and our doctors in the building at the moment? Like, what's the crack there? Because it's not the first time this season we've seen a player injured and they're either not transparent or we don't know what's going on, or all of a sudden it's got a lot worse. It's like, Andrew Thomas, when he had his hamstring injury, that seemed to rumble on forever. We could have put him on IR and he still would have come back by the time we actually brought him back. I mean, what do you think's going on there?
I think they need to have a look at everything, like in the off season, and that side of it is 100%, because some of the medical issues this year we've been scratching our heads, and it just hasn't made sense. I completely agree. Someone needs to sit down with Joe Sheehan and Brent Dable and explain why it hasn't been able to be accurate in their diagnosis and treatment and prognoses, because it just feels like a bit of a shambles.
Like the whole mess around the initial Daniel Jones injury situation. Nobody. The fact that he was cleared to play, but yet coach didn't know about it. It was almost like, where the hell did this come from?
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. In 2 weeks' time, we've got our Giant Award nominations. Do you think we should have a What the Feagles Award?
Giants medics are in for that.
100%.
Also, producer Craig, was that pun intended or not? When you said, "What's the crack?" I'll see with
I clocked that
with Evan Neal having a broken ankle.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and also don't take this the wrong way, but Kev's rubbing off of me a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm here for it.
That was my first thought. Was that a pun intended?
It wasn't. It wasn't at all. It was good though, wasn't it? It was good.
Very good, very good. But it's just been a bit of a mess, hasn't it? Like how the hell can you go from having a slightly sprained ankle to, oh no, wait, it's broken? Sorry, I mean it's an early one, but what the Feagles? And on that note,
it is that note.
What the Feagles?
What the Feagles indeed, and that was quite a nice segue into this segment. All right, first up, it's a two-parter, believe it or not. It's first up, Adoree Jackson. Come on, Adoree Jackson. The Rams facing a 3rd and 4 early in the third quarter. Matt Stafford hit Puka Nacua for a 4-yard gain before he was grabbed by Adoree Jackson, and that should have been that, but it wasn't. He by the looks of it, he had been avoiding contact for the majority of the game. He attempted to strip the ball rather than securing the tackle or pushing Nacua out of bounds, and look what happened. 80 yards later, Dane Belton's pushing him out the 2-yard line, and one play later, Kyron Williams scores his second of 3 touchdowns, giving the Rams a 20-10 lead. That was just a awful attempt to try and tackle a runner. The question for you though, Craig, Adoree seems to have had some great games, and then games where like this, where he sort of admittedly plays, make some plays, but looks like he's scared to get injured, as to not hurt his options in free agency. What do you do for the last game of the season if he's going to play like that?
I mean, Holtzy's just kind of put up a thing saying, I think Bobby Skinner nailed it when he said he wants to go into the off-season fit and healthy for a new team. And if that's his mentality, why should we give you another game?
Nope.
I mean, I know it's against the Eagles. We haven't really got anything positive to play for outside of draft position. The Eagles are going to make the playoffs anyway. I mean, they could be resting starters. If they're resting starters and they're going to have their backups out there, then rest Adoree. Rest Adoree and have Trey Hawkins out there opposite Nick McLeod or Banks if Banks is going to come back from his shoulder injury. But to be honest, if we're gonna shut it down, then shut Banks down. Maybe. I mean, it depends. If he's still like got a little bit of a niggly injury, then shut him down. Just go with McLeod and Hawkins. We've got to see what we've got there. McLeod was good last year. I'm not sure if he's out of contract at the end of this season. I can't remember if he's one of our free agents, but it'd be nice just to see a bit more from him because I actually think there's a good player in there with McLeod. Really, even if just as a backup or a rotational option, I still think that there's definitely something there. But yeah, if Adoree doesn't want to play, get Hawkins in. I've got no issue with Hawkins coming in and getting toasted and getting a few reps in there to get some experience. If Adoree can't be bothered to make tackles, and Holtzy saying drop in for Hawkins, there we go. It's not just me.
Yep.
Yeah, I completely agree. I agree with everything you just said. I've said it earlier on this podcast as well. I'd be playing the young players now. I'd be getting lads out there life game reps against an NFL team in a real-ish NFL game. I mean, there's also face it. Do we really want to? I mean, I know it's the Eagles, and we'd love to put one on them, but we have got to the point now where it is the last game of the season. I would rather go out and lose this game with a load of players getting valuable reps, loads of backup players and young players getting valuable reps. And if someone like Adoree, he has said that he's open to coming back. Choo, Ulti. And I do think, like he said himself, he's open to coming back, but I don't know. I can't see it, man. I can't see it. Like, I mean, let him go to free agency and see if they can get there. I'd rather, like I said, blood the young guys, get them out there, get them some experience, get them some reps, and see what we've got.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, Dan.
It's all right. What were you going to say?
I was literally just going to ask you, do you agree with that? Like, is it a case of we just trot the youngsters out? There are plenty of players like Jordan Riley who's been really impressive when he has come in, who potentially could maybe do with a few more snaps. Also, there's a question there from Holty. There's still a spare seat for you, Dan.
I'm very good, thank you very much. I mean, I agree with you, Keith. Let's play hard or go home. At the end of the day, the Eagles are still in the running for the division win, and the 2 seed in the NFC, I think it is. I would love to see nothing more than Philly get beat on Sunday and them not win the division for once. Obviously, it would then potentially go to the Cowboys, but Adoree, if Adoree's going to, in the answer to the initial question, if Adoree's going to play like that, he doesn't deserve a place on the field on Sunday. I think
he switched off.
If you really want to protect him that much, wrap him in bubble wrap, leave him on the sidelines, and let Trey Hawkins have a go. But in answer to the rest of it, no, go hard or go home. At the end of the day, I know draft picks are up for grabs. I know there's, again, like I said, I get why people were wanting to lose this game, and it's understandable. But at the same time, I can't root for us to lose against Philadelphia because I fucking hate Philly.
True, I completely agree with that. But I would. Do you know how much happiness it would give me if we went out and beat Philly, but like our DBs were Belton, Owens, McLeod, and the rookie Hawkins. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know,
Massively.
if we were playing those type of players, you know, like, because you know they're playing for something. You know they're actually going to play for something. So so if you provide those type of players and then you got the win, well, even better. Like that'll do their offseason a world of good.
Exactly. No, I think, yeah, give the youngsters a go. Why not? Don't, you know, it's just because we're putting young players out, it doesn't mean we're going to roll over and let Philly Bennett, you know, put 40, 50 points on us. At the end of the day, it's the last game of the season. It's at home. The crowd's going to be loud and, you know, playing for pride at the end of the day. All right. Second part of what the Feagles then we'll move on to. I mean, it's my player of the game, Tyrod Taylor. But remember I said about that 2-point conversion? Well, it's that 2-point conversion. You know, the gunner punt return just got us all absolutely buzzing. It got me thinking, Jesus Christ, we're going to win this game. And obviously, going to go for the PAT to tie the game at 26, thinking, all right, potentially take it to overtime, defense get a stop. And then obviously the defense jumps offside. It's like, okay, offense is coming on the field. Let's go for 2. Let's get the win. Come on. The play call and the design of the play was spot on. Barkley was opening the flat wide right. Tyrod was scrambling. Acres of space. You're thinking he's got 2 options. Either run it in yourself and have Barkley block for you or throw it to Barkley. One of the two. That 2 points is a virtual guarantee at this point. There was... I honestly thought there's no way they can mess this up. And what happens? We do the most Giants thing we possibly can, and we fuck it up. We fuck it up royally. You know, Tyrod even admitted he was in 2 minds. In the press conference after the game, he said he was in 2 minds. But for him to sort of stutter and then just almost like a shovel pass, but not a shovel pass, and it was behind Barkley, and Barkley had obviously run too far, and tried to get from behind. It was just the most Giantsy way to lose a game this season, I think, and that just final nail in the coffin for the season, really. You know, it was just so disappointing to see the game end that way. Obviously, we then had the chance to win it with the field goal at the end as well, but just it was. I don't know what other words I have for it apart from what the actual Feagles was that.
He went all Spursy, didn't he?
Oh, mate, we went so Spursy. So Spursy, you know, almost to the point where we were at Arsenal as well. We're bottling it, perennial bottle jobs, and yeah, we bottle it right at the end. So, Kev, it's this type of play that you could circle and say this is why we need to sort out the quarterback situation.
Yeah, yeah. So the quarterback, yeah. That's it. The quarterback situation, right? I think, you know, why don't we just protect Daniel Jones for a couple of years and wait for Arch Manning to come out, because he's coming out in 2 years' time. Let's just get Eli's little nephew and draft him in a couple of years.
I'm fully on that train, Kev.
I mean, the thing about the QB situation, as I sort of mentioned before, it's like there's two thoughts here. There are 2 sides. Do we work on protecting Daniel Jones and give him structure to throw out of? Or do we say, in this modern NFL, we need a playmaker at the quarterback position? Now, I think when our draft position is cemented this weekend, so come Sunday night, the game's 9:25 kickoff. After the game on Sunday night, we will know our draft position and know exactly where we are. And then, going forward, me and Shane will be getting together our rankings, and very shortly, in a matter of weeks, you'll find out who our top 5 QBs are. Right, so I think once we sort of have that situation, we'll all have a better understanding of how I feel about the situation and where I want to go with the prospects. But I mean, again, it's one of those things where, like, I feel for Wan'Dale Robinson, I feel for Slayton, I feel for Hyatt, because I do believe give them a number 1 to work off, and give them better quarterback play, this team can do things. And this team can do things in the playoffs, in my opinion.
Holty said proves why he's a solid backup for me and not a starter. And it is that kind of mentality, isn't it? Where you think about a bona fide NFL starter doesn't even think. Like it's just second nature to them. They just do it.
Instinctive.
And the fact that Tyrod said, "Oh, I didn't know. I was caught between two minds. I didn't really know which way I wanted to take it." And he owned it, but he's a veteran player, and veteran players should own it. I'm just going to steer this slightly again, but we were speaking earlier about the JMS Tyrod hand over, and after the game, Tyrod was asked about how the fumble on fourth down, and he said, "Yeah, it was a botched fumble between me and JMS, and we've just got to do better." Is it just me, or do you think that as a veteran, Tyrod could have just owned that on himself without having to say JMS? Yeah, he didn't need to even mention JMS there. He could have just taken that and gone, "Yeah, I screwed the snap up, and that's on me." I just thought that you've got to do
throw
more
the rookie
there.
under the bus.
Yeah, almost in a little way. Kev, you were kind of pointing and agreeing there. Did you kind of get that feeling as well?
100%. Like, because the only thing that does now is ruin that young player's confidence and people's opinion of him going forward. Now, Tyrod Taylor is who he is. Like, he won't get any better, and people will have their judgments on him and know what type of player he is already. For him to do that shows real lack of leadership, in my opinion. When that question was asked, he should have just said, "I botched the snap, blah, blah, blah. We move on to the next play," and blah, say it like that. You should never, ever throw a rookie under the bus like that. And even a wide receiver. If it was a wide receiver with the ball slightly outside the catch radius, but the wide receiver should catch it, you would still take ownership of that and say, "I need to put the ball in a better placement."
Yeah, and you got to think the quarterback is the leader of this team, the leader of this offense. He should just come out and just say, "That one's on me. Next question." Nothing else to it. That one's on me. Next question. But instead, he goes and, like I said, almost tries to throw JMS under the bus, which he doesn't deserve that.
He doesn't deserve that, and he's already and a part of me is thinking the poor guys had to deal with Bubba Johnson's coaching all year, and is it me or is he kind of getting a little bit worse as the season goes on? I'm not saying he's bad. But I believe he's playing at a higher level earlier on in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always going to be tough against Donald. Don't get me wrong. I know I kind of mentioned that earlier. Yeah, it is always going to be tough against Donald. But I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I guess do we round it up with the question from earlier?
Yeah, I just think one last thing I wanted to add about Tyrod as well with the 2-point conversion. Why he just didn't run it in, I don't know. He's got the ability to do that. He's got he's proven that he can run the ball. Why even be caught in two minds? Just you're a yard away, you're a yard out. Just run it in. Even if you've got to jump over the defender, just run it in. Come on.
I mean, you're right. It wasn't even difficult. He had Barkley in front of him. He just got past the edge guy. And let's be honest, he's going to be faster than the edge guy, isn't he? He just is. So the only player he had to worry about was the defender to the left of Barkley. But all it takes is Saquon there. And Saquon just, even if Saquon gets annihilated by whoever that player is, he still slows him down.
Goes, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah, and he just slows him down. And Tyrod's got enough of an angle that he can go all the way out to where the pylon is. The shovel pass was shite as well, wasn't it? One of the worst I've seen.
And when he attempted, when he went to throw the ball, my head was in my hands. I was like, "What are you doing? Why are you not running it in?" Anyway, Adoree, Tyrod, what the Feagles? Come on, what the Feagles, and both potentially, yeah. Bye. All right, producer Craig, go on then. Let's get the answer to this question we had at the beginning.
Yeah, so very quickly, if anyone wants to get a last-minute answer into this before I ask Dan and Kev for their guesses, who has the most offensive snaps for the Giants this season? Thanks again to Ryan Dunleavy for the idea behind this one. Dan, you want to go first?
It was tough. I was thinking long and hard about this. I went for Ben Bredesen, but I wasn't sure.
Okay. And then Kev?
Yeah, I was thinking Bredesen as well, because I think he only missed one game, and he's pretty much played right guard, left guard, center. So, I mean, JMS maybe, Slayton maybe's played a good few as well, but yeah, I think my guess was Bredesen.
Okay, so weirdly, Bredesen doesn't show up in the list that I've got, but I think he was further down anyway, but I will verify it in a second. That's funny because Monty said Bredesen, Holty said Slayton, and Keith
Slayton's
said
a good shout, to be fair.
Slayton. And I will double check this. On the list that I've got, Darius Slayton has played 780 snaps this season. Barkley 604. So they're the two at the top. So Slayton is there. I will check.
Bredesen must have played more than Barkley. Barkley missed a couple of games.
Let me
but
look
Bredesen,
on,
I don't
Pro
think
Football
was
Reference.
in all the time, was he? Because I think he.
Lewinsky came in for some games and whatnot.
Yeah. Let's have a look at PFF. I'll have a look at PFF very quickly.
I'm on Pro Football Reference, if that helps. PFR.
Yeah. So I tried using PFR for this earlier, and PFR didn't give snap counts, which annoyed me.
What does Dan Duggan and that use?
I'm guessing that they would use probably PFF. Huh?
Got snap counts. I don't. You can't see my phone screen.
Are you looking at individual player?
I'm looking at the 2023 Giants.
Okay, I can see it.
Go on then, Daniel.
This
is a great podcast, and this is
947. Okay.
Slayton with 844. JMS was 756.
844 is
6. I mean, you'd have to literally go back through all of the games and watch them to get a completely.
Well, the funny thing is 844 is different to the screenshot that I took on the website earlier. But the funny thing is you've all guessed the two players, haven't you?
Yeah, true.
You've all guessed exactly who it is. So Bredesen is the person.
We'll all take the win.
Followed by Slayton, but yeah, I just thought that was an interesting.
Interestingly, JMS is third and Justin Pugh is fourth, according to Pro Football Reference.
Justin Pugh being fourth, is worrying. Is that not worrying for you guys?
699 offensive snaps, apparently.
I'm going to pull up Dan Duggan's 17 tweets or 16 tweets for when he done the snap counts every game.
I mean, that's a
no,
that's
I'm not.
That's
no, I'm not. No.
Gonna say
no, I'm not.
So that's getting an answer a long way. I mean, feel free to do that if you want to.
I think PFF are normally the ones that they use. You said 947 for Bredesen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've got on here. And let's just have a look at Slayton.
Either Bredesen or Slayton, one of the two.
Well, think about it. It's 55 snaps per game. So that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best part of 1,000 snaps, right?
Yeah, 846. 844. Cool. 844, sorry, for Slayton. Because
for Slayton, that's what
I'm not including punt. I'm not including punt return.
Yeah,
it's a lot of right. It's a lot of snaps to take in and not be targeted that much.
It is. True. I mean, six backfield, 14 in line, 267 in the slot, 557 wide. So imagine taking 557 slots out wide for now a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But he's still produced. Like I said, he's been consistent, although not electrifying. He has been consistent year on year for us.
Yeah.
Well, that was a nice little bit of trivia,
Underrated.
wasn't it?
It
I
is.
like that.
It is.
I enjoyed that. Alrighty. Now, unfortunately, that is all we've got time for this evening. But we will be back on Thursday, usual time of 8:30 p.m. for our last game preview of the season, as those filthy Philadelphia Eagles come to town. And they're in desperate need, like I said, of a win after their embarrassment, the absolute embarrassment at the hands of the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. Pretty sure we beat the Cardinals in week 2, right? And can't even beat them, who's for Leo. There we go. So yeah, they're going to be looking for a bounce back win going into the postseason. So looking forward to that game for sure. Anything else to add before we go, guys?
No, just it's been good to get on with you guys, and I've really enjoyed this one. And again, we always say it, the season hasn't been great. But the fact that we can unpack it together and have our therapy sessions makes the season so much easier to endure.
Yeah, and we're under no illusions that as it got to like the meat and drink of this season in the middle there, around sort of the Raiders game, Jets game area, it wasn't enjoyable. It wasn't enjoyable to watch the Giants. So I can only imagine that trying to relive it through our voices probably isn't the greatest either. But thank you for sticking through all the shite with us and getting back to what we've had the last 2 weeks, because I don't know about you two. Yes, it's been 2 losses. It's been damn entertaining. Probably more entertaining than anything else we've seen this season, apart from the Cardinals game. So,
yep.
Just an appreciation really for people sticking around and still interacting with us on Twitter, X, and interacting in the comments and stuff, because it's not easy to watch crap teams, and the last thing you want to do is relive it sometimes. So
no, you're very true. But I think at one point we were 2-8 this season, and what we were watching was absolutely dire. So yeah, to have these last 2 games actually be rather entertaining. And another one, no doubt, coming up this weekend as well. And I thought we looked quite competitive against Philly last week. So, is there going to be an upset on the cards on Sunday? Find out our predictions on Thursday. But yeah, looking forward to the game Sunday. Last game of the season. Let's go out on a high. Let's go out with a bang. Before we do go, I just want to say a huge, huge thank you to those that voted in my favour in the poll that we ran on X earlier this week, or end of last week, whenever it was, after Shane was utterly convinced, that I had agreed to join the tank train on last week's preview pod. To the independent adjudicator NYG Crush, thank you very much for making that decision, who had no such agreement after listening back to that moment. And as I said anyway previously, it may be boring, Holty, but it's real and it's true. As I said, there's only one train I'm on, and that's the integrity train. Isn't that right, Steve Wilkins, not Holt? There we go. I don't know if he's watching, but Steve Wilkins, integrity train, brother. Let's do it.
I'm a little bit upset actually.
Why is that?
Because I'm failing to see a crown around here. The fact that somebody might have won the Big Blue UK and Ireland fantasy football.
I mean, somebody may have won it.
I don't know who it might be. Just, I can't even, with my shoulder, I can't genuinely do that. And if I do it one-handed, I look like I'm about to do the sprinkler.
Yeah.
Big, and that was, you jumped the gun there, Craig, because I was going to offer my congratulations to yourself for winning our 2023 fantasy league. So well done. Congratulations.
Do we need to ban podcast members in the future?
You've taken the crown from me.
Yep.
As last season's champion. So yeah, congrats. I passed my metaphorical crown to you. There you go.
We need an angry
Enjoy
Romans episode, don't we?
Yeah, enjoy the crown, enjoy the trophy, and I'm pretty sure someone won the toilet bowl as well, didn't they not? So we got the winner.
You know my opinions on sleeper.
We do. We got the winner, and we've got the overall loser. Yay!
I'm trying to think of what the quote is. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Is that maybe?
I'm just here so I don't get fined. Marshall,
I'm gonna have to enlist like a listener or something to be co-commissioner, co-owner of a team with me, because I can't be doing this year on year.
Yeah, I'm just here so I don't get fined. Love that.
I might be jumping the gun again here, Dan, but incidentally, props to Gareth, who was in the championship game with me. Massive props to Gareth. He had a really good season as well. Gareth, if you're listening, throw us a DM and we'll get something sorted for you for finishing as runner-up. Yeah,
as you were I suppose, because we can't really give producer Craig a prize because his prize is doing this podcast. So we'll get something sorted for you, Gareth, and congrats on finishing as runner-up. I think I beat Shane in the last weekend. I think I finished 13th overall. So go me. Whoop, whoop. But yeah, good season in general in fantasy. It's always a good laugh, fantasy football. So if you weren't involved this year, get involved next year and enjoy fantasy with us. All right, to see the latest updates and get notified of when we go live, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell as well. And if you like this or any of our videos, give us a big thumbs up and give it a nice little share as well. Feel free to also give us a nice rating on your podcast platform of choice. We appreciate all the love we get. You can also check out our Etsy shop, etsy.com/BigBlueUKIRL to get your hands on some pod merch and show us some love in that way as well, because you may have some spare pennies to spend after Christmas. Oh, no, wait, nobody does. 2024 is set to be another great year for us here on the podcast, and we hope you will join us for the ride as we look forward to what this year is going to bring. My thanks as ever go to Kev and to producer Craig for joining me, and to the viewers and listeners for tuning in. Happy 2024. We're signing off. Until next time, let's go Giants.